What does it mean to live a resilient life? I'm Ryan Mannion. I lost my brother to war and my mom to cancer, and I've learned a lot about myself along the way. Now, as the CEO of Travis Mannion Foundation, I'm on a journey to explore what it means to be resilient against life's many challenges. Join me and some incredible guests as we ask ourselves the hard questions and define what it means to struggle well. All right. Dave Portnoy, I'm excited to have you here today. Thank you very much.
Of course.
First, start out with happy 21st anniversary. I saw that yesterday. That's exciting.
Yeah, Barstool can drink as of yesterday.
And I was reading you, Barstool had posted like your first publication, and I zoomed in to read it, and it was really kind of cool to read what your vision was in that first newspaper and to see that it's still very much the same today, right? It's much bigger, but essentially.
I mean, it's morphed in a lot of different ways, obviously. I didn't have some grandiose plan of where it would end up. I really hated my job, and wanted to start something that I enjoyed doing. But at the heart of it, whether it's men or women, it's like the theory being talk how you would talk if no one's looking, like in a locker room or in an environment like that, how people actually communicate, rather than kind of like gloss over it or fake speak, which is a lot of the media. So yeah, in that respect, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I've always been curious about as it pertains to Barstool Sports. Like, was where you are today the plan, right? No, not at all.
No. I honestly would have been happy making like 60, 70 grand a year and enjoying what I do, like waking up with my life. It took a million different turns. I mean, his newspaper, the internet, wasn't a thing really. Right. Like when we started it, Facebook didn't exist. So many things happened along the way. That was just really lucky in a lot of respects, in right place, right time, right person, all that. But no, I never would have dreamed it when we started that it'd be here.
I mean, do you think, though, like you say, it was a lot of luck, and you talk a lot about, getting rid of like the BS that you put on in front of a camera versus behind a camera. And I think a lot of that is, and I will say, I've gotten to know you over the past few years. We met at Army Navy, and what you see is what you get. You are the same person right here today that you are when, you're at the Army Navy tailgate or when I've talked to you. And I think that authenticity, I don't think that's luck. I think that played a big role in growing this company and people seeing that and understanding that.
Sure. Yes, there's no doubt. That's kind of the right person, right time, right place. But there's like a million things that happened along the way that if they didn't happen or break just perfectly for us, we're probably not here. Most companies that people start, they fail. That's just like the nature of the beast. So I started one and it worked. I always thought it was work, but I'm sure most people who start businesses are like, oh, this is going to work. So again, it's something to do with the authenticity for sure, but there's a lot of authentic people out there who are very smart, who probably have businesses that fail. It was everything. I keep saying, but right time, right place, right person. Like the internet broke for me at like the right time. Yeah. I was there to capitalize on it at the right time. Certain people came into my life at the right time for the business for it to succeed. So it all happened. It all happened perfectly. It's just like any business. But if you say, hey, a guy's going to start basically a gambling newsletter from his basement, and at one point, some people would look at it like as a major like media competitor to legacy media, a lot has to go right to get from point A to where we are now, regardless of how smart or whatever the person who's doing it is. So I think it's a combo of factors.
Yeah, and obviously what I do and what you do are very different, but I run a veteran service organization, and when we started, but I see a lot of similarities in our path because we started the organization. My brother was killed in 2007. My mom started the Travis Manion Foundation. And really for my dad and I, we looked at it as like this great way for my mom to grieve the loss of her son and do something purposeful. And it would be like many other memorial funds are, you know, they operate locally in the area and friends and family give to help continue that legacy. And so we thought it would be a nonprofit that helped veterans in the Philadelphia area. And here we are 17 years later, and we're one of the largest veteran service organizations in the country. And, you know, I have a lot of times people will ask like, well, what was the plan? And very much like you, I'm like, this wasn't the plan, right? This was never the plan for us to be doing what we're doing now. And that idea of like right time, right place rings very true for us. And I also think people responded to our vision and our mission and the way that we work with veterans, not treating them like they needed a handout, but, you know, we were helping them to get back on their feet in a different way. But I've always been very impressed with the way you've done that. And again, you know, getting back to how you operate, like 95% of your life is in the public eye. Like, do you ever find the transparency that you put out there to be a double-edged sword?
No, not really. I mean, I've certainly had instances where I'm like, man, this sucks. And it's been eye-opening, a couple experiences with the media or whatever. But no, because I am who I am. Like what you said, if I had a camera following me around 24/7 and I didn't know the cameras are there, nothing would surprise anybody who's followed me. They're like, he's just the same, like exact person. So it doesn't bother me because I don't have to change at all who I am. Yeah. So I get that sometimes because people always come up and occasionally people will be like, well, are you like, it must be annoying. People coming up saying hello, pictures, like not at all. And I won't have the life I'd have without that. They go hand in hand. It's like whenever you see someone well-known celebrity and they're like complaining about fame, it's like, I am a firm believer you can't do that. Like no one's forcing you to try to achieve what you're doing. I consciously moved into the public eye. Like when I started Barstool, it was really a business. I had pseudonyms for myself. I wasn't trying to put my picture out there. But what people resonated with not only me, but the entire company is more the personal stories. So it was a conscious decision to make us more involved. And without that, we wouldn't be where we are. So no, I have no regrets on any of it. I'm very much have come to grips. You can't have all the good. And I've had a lot of good without some of the negatives that come with it, and they're few and far between. Yeah.
What about this idea? One of the things that I've found so interesting about you is that you are essentially uncancelable. I'm not saying that right, but you can't be canceled. Like, I see some of the things that you put out there, and if someone else said it and said it half of what you said, they would be canceled in this cancel culture that. And when I had Erica on the podcast, we talked a lot about this. And I was like, how does Dave stop from being canceled? You know?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that? Because do you
Not really.
Do you ever think about when you say something? Because you'll speak on something right away, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about, okay, what are the repercussions of me saying this? Or do you just not care?
At times, like when we're owned by Penn, which is a publicly traded company,
yeah,
people who didn't like me had kind of an end around. You go complain to regulators and state people, and it's like they can really screw with your business.
Yeah.
And I made a deal when I sold to Penn, like, I'm not going to screw with your business.
Right,
so
right.
That was kind of like a social contract I made with them. So in that case, yes, I would bite my tongue on certain things. When I've owned it, no. And again, it's a 21-year story. So people have followed me, and I've been an open book for the majority of it. So I have this built up trust and foundation of a house that's built with brick, and you can't blow it over. So I don't care what people say about me. And the truth of the matter is, like, most of the people, it's kind of like politics, have made up their mind about me.
Yeah.
Like they either like me or they hate me. And you could present them evidence either way, and they're not going to change their mind. So, you'd like to be able to change your mind, but I've had accusations about me. And if I did what I was being accused to do, my people would still believe me. And the people who hate me, if I present evidence, which I have, it's like, here's the facts. They still don't want to believe it. So, you can't give people, the cancel crowd, like an inch. That I believe that forever. Like, you can't just be honest, truthful. But if you give them an inch, they're not satisfied.
Right.
That's just like, oh, we can push this guy around, push her around, bully them. So we just never have.
Yeah. Well, and just so you know, totally respect that. And I love how you have pushed back against that. Like, I love the idea that you think something, you say it, you put it out there, you know? And I find myself I find myself more, there's so many things I want to say and I don't. I think it's probably the nature of what I do too, as running a nonpartisan organization. Sure. I have to be very careful. So I love it when people say things that frankly I would want to say, and I'm like, they're out there saying it. Thank you. And I'm sure a lot of other people think that way too.
Yeah. And I think it helps saying it quickly, like, and it's clearly unedited. Like, if you see some of my rants, it's not like there's jump cuts. It's like I pick up the phone, I go, and then I put it out there. And again, the people know me. They're sometimes surprised, like, what I say, because one of the things that drives me nuts is I don't like, and maybe not like is the right word. I shouldn't know the answer. I shouldn't know what someone's going to answer a question just by like a political party or anything. Like, I hate that about this country, how you can pretty much, if you watch like a CNN or a Fox or a Democrat, Republican, or this person likes one person, you know the answer to like the next 100 questions.
Right.
It's like and that's nuts. And so I've had people on both sides attack me because I may be on like one issue that they agree, and then you jump to the other. It's like, well, I don't agree with you. And they all attack. So it's just being honest and truthful. And I always said it's helpful when the truth is on your side. Like, I don't have skeletons that I'm worried about people digging up. They would have already dug them up. They've gone through my past, like with a fine tooth comb. So that helps.
So, all right, switching subjects a little bit. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm seeing all the hype on the Connor Stallions documentary. My 10-year-old
Oscar.
My 10-year-old son is up there right now, and I was like, "Hey, Trav!" And you know, the wildest thing for us is, you know, I have a daughter at the Naval Academy now, and I'm like, I'm telling my 10-year-old son, like, he went to the Naval Academy, and he's like, he was a Marine.
He specifically went to the Naval Academy. Like, he researched where all the great coaches have gone. And like, in his words, like 16 of the top 20 most admirable coaches were all Navy Academy. So it makes sense because of the discipline, everything there. It reminds me a lot of Deflategate. It's such a joke story that it became such a big thing. And of course, Michigan won, so that makes it a bigger thing. I'm a diehard Michigan fan, diehard Patriots fan. So I'm just the ultimate Connor defender. But it is silly. It's like the nuts and bolts of it. The sign stealing, which everybody does, which they said everybody does, they were caught, air quotes, and then they went and beat Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan State, and Washington without the signals. So it's like, what are we even talking about here? They had a great team. Period. End of story. And the losers, if you look, Patriots, Houston Astros, Michigan, teams that win, people come at them. That's the nature of sports.
Yeah, it's true. I get it. I think one of the things that has raised your profile, and what I thought was so funny is there were a lot of, as you say, if you love me, you love me. If you hate me, you hate me. I think you actually switched over a lot of people that hated you when you adopted. Yes.
Yes. So UTA, we signed a deal with them, a talent agency, like for the company. And they did this big survey that we'd never do.
Yeah.
And like the favorability of me and Barstool is like, people think of us 90% more positive, and like the people who negative, it's like 70% less. Yeah. Miss Peaches has maybe changed the dialogue a little bit. Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. Like, in less than a year, you now have the world's most famous dog. And she she's the sweetest dog without meeting her. Like, I mean, you watch her on social media. I mean,
she lives up to the hype. That's what everybody says when they're like, I don't know what I was expecting, but she's like exactly how I expected her to be. She's just truly, and I mean, I even got pictures of her. I don't know if I'm going to post from like earlier this week. It was the actual woman, I think, who went to the house where she was being mistreated. And it's like, I was crying seeing the photos, but for her to be in that situation and have the temperament she has, she's like a 1 in a million. So she really is a great dog.
Well, and I think also, you know, obviously we know there's a negative perception of her breed of dogs too.
Yeah,
and
Pitbulls, yep.
Yeah, and I mean, she could not be sweeter.
She smashes those stereotypes.
Yeah, it's very cool. And you know, the other thing that I love about what you do, and I always say, like, from what I have known of you, you practice what you preach. Like, not only did you just adopt the dog and say, adopt, don't shop, you know, you put your money where your mouth is. You raised, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for animal adoption. What was it? The Lifeline Animal Project. And I think that's super admirable. So love that about you. And, you know,
so we'll never make a penny off her. And it wasn't a planned thing. Like, I brought my video guy. He was with me flying back. I wanted kind of for my own personal, like the moment I met her and I posted it and instant, it just hit. Everyone's like, oh, that's the cutest thing ever. And it's still hitting. Like, she's the most viral thing we have. And it's a good way to raise money for dogs because people are quick to be like, yeah, we're into this cause.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing I saw that just recently, you guys, you were just on, I don't know if it was the Foreplay Pod, but you were talking about the Creator Golf Tournament. And you were super into it with the $1 million prize pool. You said you'd put up $1 million on the prize pool. And I just learned recently you're a left-handed golfer. I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm not very good at golf, but yes.
So I just got really super into golf. We hold a ton of golf tournaments for TMF, and I've always gone and I ride around on the golf cart and I, you know, thank everybody for coming out. And last year I was like, you know, I really should be playing golf. And so I got a couple lessons, went out there. I broke 100 for the first time this summer.
That's pretty impressive within a year.
But I had Connor out, Captain Cons. He came and golfed in one of our golf tournaments with us. And I get the hype. I'm obsessed with golf. I go to bed watching golf TikToks, and it's literally all I can think about.
Yeah, so I'm a 180. I can't, like, I have trouble playing 18 holes. I get bored after 9. I mean, I play, like, if I break 120, I'm doing well. I used to play a lot when I was a kid, but I just don't have the patience for it.
Yeah. Well, I never understood the sport of golf. I thought it was a boring sport to watch, to play, and I don't know how. I just picked up a super obsession with it. So I love the idea of this Creator Golf Tournament. I'll put in the plug that to make it even more enticing, you should have a charity tie to it. And, you know.
Do you know any charities?
I know a couple that I can recommend to you.
The charity thing is going to happen. I don't know when. That blew up really fast too. So that'll be something that happens, but not probably anytime soon.
Well, we've got a lot of great veteran golfers that would be perfect for an event like that. Just putting it out there.
I'll keep it in my mind.
Okay, good. All right, some rapid fire questions for you. Your favorite musical artist?
Jimmy Buffett.
Okay. Favorite book?
It's sad I don't know this. It's probably Sphere. It's like a thriller, underwater thriller. I mean, I would say Jaws, but that's a lie because I read that way after the movie.
Okay. Sphere or Jaws. Okay. Favorite Boston sports team?
Patriots.
Okay. Well, we had a little thing going in here with my guys. One said Patriots, the other said Celtics. We thought you'd be riding high from the parade, so we weren't sure.
It's Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox, and they're all distant. Bruins fourth. So I'm not a hockey guy.
Yeah.
Patriots is getting ready to start, so I'm like amped up for that. I have a lot more history with the Patriots.
Yeah, I get it. All right, favorite Barstool podcast?
Get me in trouble with that. I'm just going to have to Barstool pick them because I'm on it and no one can argue about that.
Okay, there you go. All right, would you ever run for political office?
Never. I've thought about it. I get so mad, but I'm a firm believer you can get a lot more done not in political office. So if you're actually trying to help people, I don't think you want to be an elected official.
I agree with that to some degree, but I also think that if we don't have more people that are common sense, find solution, not to stick to one side or the other, we end up where we are now.
I agree with that, but I don't know that we're ever going to get there. It seems to be going the other way.
I know. What do you think of celebrity ownership of sports teams?
I think it's cool.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I don't know what I would do if I could buy, if you said, hey, Dave, you can buy the Knicks. Like, they're for sale, you can afford them. Well, I hate the Knicks, so why would I want to buy that? Ideally, a celebrity sports fan will buy a team they've rooted for their whole life. That doesn't happen a lot. You have people crisscrossing. It's like, oh, they bought this team because they're available.
Right.
But I like owners that are like from the town or city.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. Do you think Scottie Scheffler will be better than Tiger?
No. Nope. Nobody's going to be better than Tiger.
Do you think the NIL and the transfer portal should have limitations when it comes to college football and basketball? Yeah,
they got to figure it out. I just don't think it's set up correctly. I think what they got to do is there should be budgets. Like each school conference, you have $100 million to spend. Go spend it however you want and regulate it. But the way it is now, and by the way, it should be contracts, I think. So you don't have a player jumping. He's not on 4 different teams 4 years. Like he plays a year. Somebody comes in, highest offer. He bounces. Somebody comes out of high school. Here's 100, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but here's 10 million, 4-year contract.
Yeah.
Like sports to keep it, because there has to be a balance between being fair for the student athletes because they're being taken advantage of and they should deserve money. But you don't want to ruin the sport because then nobody's going to have money. So, I feel like it's headed to a dangerous spot right now where it's so confusing and players flip-flopping, teams leaving conferences. They gotta watch out because people love football NIL, but you got to think about the fan too, because that's what ultimately gets all the money.
Yeah. And I have a big issue with this as it relates to the service academies too. Like this puts them at such a disadvantage.
They're not allowed to do it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, neither, they could transfer out. But they can't bring in a fifth year.
That's like their rules though.
That's their rules. Sure. Yeah. It's their rules. And those rules aren't going to change. And so like I went out and watched Navy play Notre Dame last year in Ireland, and I forget the quarterback for Notre Dame, Sam. I think his name was Sam.
Yeah, Howell from Wake Forest.
I mean, he was like 27 years old, and
he was. And they did this year. They have a great quarterback. When we did our NIL thing, we had a bunch of like Army players, and they were all told they came in, and then they were told you got to get out. They're like, we got in trouble.
Yeah.
So, but that's on sort of the service academies to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, the hope is that they can stay competitive as this continues to grow, because I don't think they'll ever change that, and I think when they get those big wins, which West Point and Navy do, at some points throughout the season, they come out and they come from behind and they make a big win, and then it's like, all right. But yeah, it hurts them.
Yeah, most kids aren't going there for the money, but there has to be a way. And I don't have that. I understand the principle of it, but if a kid's willing to be like, well, I could get $500,000 to go somewhere else, just give me 50 or something so I can there has to be a balance.
Yeah. All right. So I'm from Philly. I'm a huge Philly sports fan. So I could not have been more excited when I saw you put,
they're my future. $200,000 to win the World Series.
Yeah,
they're starting to play better again. They were playing like crap, but they've turned it around recently.
They have turned it around. They won 5-0 last night. They're on a roll. And Ray Muto, actually, he was interviewed last night after the game, and he said, we accept nothing but a World Series win in terms of us leaving this season the way we want to. And I thought that was such a good thing for you because they all believe they have a bad season if they don't win the World Series. So that's the team passion is there.
Yeah, and I think it's like one of the very few true like home field advantages. That's kind of why I picked them. I feel like in the playoffs, that's a very difficult place to play for opposing teams.
So difficult.
But you got to be hot at the right time. Your pitching's got to be right. Like I thought they're going to win the world. What was the year they blew it? Was that
last year?
That was last year?
Yeah.
Was it, who'd they lose to? Who won last year?
2 years ago. It was 2 years ago that they blew
against
it.
the Astros,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I thought they were home. Like, I thought they were done there. So we'll see. Yeah, that's my future.
So that's your future. I love it.
Well, that's my future bet. Yeah.
Give me two, for our Eagles fans, give me two really positive things that you think about the Philadelphia Eagles.
I got nothing. I mean, I think the quarterback will have a bounce back year.
You do? All
Hurts,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's an interesting cat. They also blew it. It looked like they were home free 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. And I don't know what happened last year. You guys all love your coach, Sirianni. Now, people didn't think he had a job. So they're a confusing team.
I know.
They were so dominant and then so bad last year towards the end. I don't know what to make of them. You're in better shape than we are.
Well, most teams are in better shape than you guys.
The Patriots, yeah. I'll never complain. We had such a great run during the core of Barstool. You could argue like we wouldn't be here without the Patriots. So
I mean, I could not imagine. Yeah, I could not imagine having a run like the Patriots did. I've got in front of me my Super Bowl champion banner for here. I got the front page of the Inquirer with Nick Foles holding up the trophy, and that was 1 year. 1 year, and I ride high on that with everything, So I couldn't imagine having that.
That was a bad one for me, but yeah, there were 6 Super Bowls, and it really did coincide with like Barstool. Like they came up as Barstool came up. We knew all the players were intertwined with it. Like to have the greatest run basically in sports coincide when you're trying to start a sports centric publication in the city, that this is happening.
Yeah.
When I say right place, right time, lucky breaks, like
that played a huge role in it.
Yeah, it really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Army Navy game. I've been with you at the Army Navy game the last 2 years, and I love when you're there and you've talked to me about why you're there and how many years. Last year was how many years that you've been there?
I feel like we've been there 4 or 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So tell me what you love about the Army Navy game.
So the Army Navy game is my favorite sporting event that I've been to. That's not like the Patriots competing for a Super Bowl where I'm not involved. It's a very different game. The pageantry and the pomp of everything goes on. You meet generals, all these people, the flyovers, and then the cadets in the crowd, like the way they cheer, everything about it is very special. I remember the speech I think I heard the first year, and I don't know if they do it every year or not, but it's the only game where all of the people playing will die for all the people watching. I remember that like vividly, hearing that. So it's a very special event, and it very different from modern sports where a lot of it now, people don't, the players, they're on their own program, NIL, going pro, whatever it may be. It's just a very different thing. And there's really nothing quite like it. I think I've told you this. The year we went the first year was Navy had won like 100 years in a row. And Army people sent me their coat, which they said, if you graduate, you're supposed to give it to somebody else as like a tradition. And so I got the coat. I said, I'll root for Army. I'll go to Army Navy every year till Army wins. And they won the first year. So people say I may get the credit for that. They broke, I think it was 14 years.
It was a 14-year streak. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went Army 1 year one. Army's record is better in the games I've gone to. I know that. But it's a special game. I love the Army coach.
Yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed having you come out to the Army Navy game, I think it does a lot for the game itself that you guys come out, that you've done your college game day show there. I don't love that I have not been able to convince you to root for Navy one year. I mean, Navy's in a losing streak. Navy is the underdog. This may be the year. And I also noticed that when you do your podcast from, I think it's in your house in Miami, you've got a "Don't Give Up the Ship" flag hanging behind you. Oh, there you go. I mean,
have them everywhere.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that's Navy's flag. Like,
yeah, I know whose flag is. I know the whole story. I got that because it's kind of what you were saying earlier. Like, there's times throughout Barstool where the easier thing would have been for me to like apologize, just even though I didn't mean it and didn't think we did anything wrong, just to get people off my back. And I read the story on the Navy flag is essentially like, and I know that "Don't Give Up the Ship," although there's rumors about, but it essentially, I read a quote being like, it's doing what is the hard thing to do when it would be easier to do something else. So it has personal meaning for me. So I do have the flags quite literally everywhere. Like every place I need a reminder, the flag is there, but I do root for Army.
All right. We'll see if we can change that coming into this year. When, I mean, I don't even think Navy is like the underdog. Like, Navy is like severely the underdog. So so we'll see what happens.
The coach from Army is great. So that has turned the thing around.
The coach from Navy is also great. They are two great coaches. Tell us something that people don't know about you. Like,
that's an impossible question.
Okay, but here,
that I'm so open with everything.
Well, let me reframe it. Like, is there a time when you were in a significant period of struggle that you didn't share outwardly?
No, people have known when I've been in the struggles. We've been so open with it. Yeah, no, I mean, personal life, not even people know the personal life. No, for the most part, people have known, because I can't keep my mouth shut. Yeah. It's like I just start muttering about it, and it's like, what's even talking about? But for the most part, people have known the ups and downs, trials and tribulations. And as I've gotten more well-known, even if I want to keep like that stuff, it's really hard. And most of it is like most of the stuff that has really bothered me has been outward, like attacks on my character, which are very public. So people know it's bothering me.
Yeah. And they do get to you. Like,
yeah, I mean, people know the business or stuff. But most people, I was accused of heinous shit. And like, my girlfriend at the time, like, our parents read that before I had even met them. It's like, right. Would you want and you think about it, it's like, if I read a lot of the stuff written about me, I think I was like Hitler. So if people aren't going to dig deep or even acknowledge the other side, it sucks. That did bother me. And it doubly bothered me because I had a degree of like, still at that time, well, I have all the evidence or facts, I'll just send it and this will go away. But there was no interest in that. Yeah. So that part is pretty scary. Like, they dropped hit pieces on me twice on the day that Penn had their earnings call.
I remember. Yeah.
That is like coordinated, devious stuff. It's just eye-opening. It's like, it really opened my eyes to just the media in general.
Well, what I loved most about that was that you posted all the DMs and the texts between,
which were embarrassing for me, but
I loved it. You had to do it. Like, you had to do it. Yeah. And all you were asking for was simple things like, let's record the interview. I mean, literally, why would a journalist not record an interview? That makes no sense.
And never to sit down with a star or person in little things. It's like they go through and talk to every single person I was attached to on like social media. My ex-wife, who I was with 10 years, who I'm still best friends, no one ever picked up the phone. Like, what's this person? Nothing. Anybody, Erica, nobody called Eric. Nobody who potentially could contradict anything was contact. It was only people they thought had an axe to grind with me or something. And I grew up in a household, like, my dad, if it was in the New York Times, done. That's the truth.
He believed it. Yeah.
CNN, done. The truth. So it's eye-opening then to be like, well, the New York Times is coming after me. And my dad doesn't even know what to say. It's like I show him like, hey, I tried to sit down with these people. There's something with the Washington Post that went super viral. Like I do this pizza fest. And the reporters start calling the pizza places being like, how dare you do this? He's a bad guy. And I caught the reporter on I'm like, right off the bat, I'm like, I'm recording the call.
Yeah.
And she didn't hang up. And I'm like, do you know anything about me? She's like, no. Like, so why are you telling people all this stuff? She's like, well, I wasn't trying to do leading questions. Like, I have the proof. And it went crazy viral because it was a pretty good example of just how devious the media can be. So that I'm probably now scarred. And by the way, I don't just think I think everybody, I don't trust anything. I try to do the research on anything, but it is so hard that it's such a toxic environment right now.
Yeah. Well, every single day. It's a bad place. So recently when I was golfing with Connor, I pitched this idea to him, which he said he presented to you. And do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe when you say it, I will.
So this hike, did he tell you about this hike?
Oh, yeah. I have no interest in that.
Yes.
Zero.
So
that was the fastest no I've had in a long time.
Literally. So I'm about to do this hard way challenge. And the idea is basically to challenge yourself physically, but more mentally, right? So I'm going to do 48 hours hiking with a Marine Navy Cross recipient. This guy is legendary. And he's going to teach me land nav skills, and we're going out for 2 days. He sent me the packing list. I said, there's no sleeping bag. Like, what kind of sleeping bag do I get? He goes, well, if we do what we're supposed to be doing, there won't be much sleep. And It was like, leave your phone at home. We will have like a documentary crew to capture everything. And I'm talking about it with Connor at the golf tournament. And I'm like, this would be kind of cool to put Dave in this environment. He's like, you want me to run it by him? And I said, yeah. I said, see what he thinks. And then I'll call him if he has any interest. And he texted me back and he said, I talked to Dave. He said there's nothing he would want to do less than that.
It's a fact. Like, I'm all for racing awareness, doing things, but that is not my bag. That is, I have no interest in that.
So my response to Connor was, got it, but your response is the exact reason why I think you should consider in the future doing something that puts you out of your comfort zone. Like, really outside of, and I've gotten into this idea in the last several years. I used to be a creature of comfort. I'm still a creature of comfort. Like, there are certain things that I just like, but I have found so much personal growth in doing things that make me wildly uncomfortable. Like, there is nothing I want to do less than go on this hike. But
I get uncomfortable other ways. Like, I'm not Barstool's Barstool. Like, if I'm at the Super Bowl and the cops are in my face telling me to get up, like, my inclination is I would rather not cause issue. I'd rather get up, walk out, not go dead fish and be like dragged out of the Super Bowl. I'm very uncomfortable when that happens. But it's like, okay, I can do it. The hike and not my bag. I have nothing to prove in that regard. I don't want to be uncomfortable that way.
All right, I'm going to keep working you on some other. So another thing that he did, and this was something that I was just like, definitely not. But he calls them hard way challenges. That's the thing. It's called the hard way, right? The first thing that he did was he got in a shipping container. He put 2 shipping containers next to each other with just a treadmill. He put the other guy in one, he's in the other, it's pitch black, and you have to run on the treadmill for as long as you can, or just be on the treadmill, walk, run, whatever, for 24 hours. And you can decide, I'm going to be on it for 5 hours and sleep the rest of the time, but it's the challenge against the other person, right? So, and it's this unknown. And so he ended up beating the other guy. He was on the treadmill for like 23 hours and 47 minutes out of the 24 hours. But it's all really like, it's all about how far you can push yourself mentally versus physically. I'm fine
with the mental. The physical, not so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll try to find you one that's a little bit more mental. And I'll propose some ideas to you down the line. I have some ideas.
We're not close right now.
We're not. Okay. We're far apart. I'm tracking. Yeah. We're far apart. Where do you see yourself in Barstool in the next 5 to 10 years?
I have no idea. So, I mean, I got the company back about a year ago, I think. I wasn't anticipating that. I would say at this point, how I look at the world, I have people who've been with me forever. They enjoy their jobs. If Barstool went away, I don't know what the hell they do with their lives. They're so dumb. Like, I honestly, they'd be like, I don't know what they do. Like, they've been with me for so long and have no real life skills. So I've made my money with Barstool.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not worrying about like, we're depleting like the money I've made, which I spent 20 years making, we can break even, be close to it. I'm happy just running Barstool as it is and doing our thing and like being happy waking up. I don't want stress. Like I've come a long way to like not have to worry that much. So I don't want to go back there, but I want it to be a place where people are basically happy to work and it's a good place to like live your life. So it may not sound like the most ambitious thing, but that's kind of like how I look at the world.
Yeah, but you could also just decide to walk away tomorrow. So you obviously have an allegiance to your people.
100%.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I love too, one of the things, like again, putting it all out there. You are very open in the way that you work with your staff, your expectations of your staff, and that's not something that happens behind closed doors. I was cracking up last week on, I don't know what I saw a quick reel, and it was you with Rico telling him your podcast. You called in to tell him that his podcast sucked, basically, which was hilarious.
And he ended it. It was horrible. Sometimes you got to tell. The interesting thing, so I talk to our employees as not equals, but they can talk back to me. Like they can come yell at me, scream at me. I'm not like, how dare you, as the boss. It's a pretty free flowing conversation of guys, like it being guys or even women being women. So that is Barstool.
Yeah. And the opportunity I think you give to people that otherwise, like I look at the rise of some of your Barstool personalities, and we were just talking here, just, coming from a lacrosse family, the girl Mooby, she's
huge.
Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't know about this girl until my kids were walking around and I'm like, what do you want for dinner? And they're like, chicken Caesar salad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then, they're talking about sitting on a stump and, they love her because they play lacrosse. And they're like, oh my, and now she's transitioned to Barstool. She's this big personality. I just think it's so cool to watch that.
Yeah, we've been very good. It's a combo of finding talented people. Sometimes people have no idea, or somebody who is kind of starting to bubble up, and then we put our gas on them. For females, our track record, almost more than guys, speak for themselves. Like we've just had, and not everyone knows it, but like Jenna Marbles, who was like 1.0 internet, worked for us. She became like probably the biggest YouTube creator of her time. Then you have Alex Cooper.
Yeah.
Brianna Chicken Fry, Moobs. So for whatever reason, we've become like a very good launching pad for female digital creators.
Yeah. And I mean, I love Brianna. I loved her before she was dating Zach Bryan. She reminds me a little bit of a female version of you. Like she has 0 Fs. She tells it how it is. She puts it out there. She's very open with her life. And, and I think a lot of that, you can get a lot of pushback, and she does. And, I'm a huge Zach Bryan fan. I was at the show in Philly. I was hoping he was going to call me up to sing Revival, and I could show you up, but Bruce Springsteen showed up that night, so I didn't get the ask.
When I got asked to do it, because I know I can't sing, I'm like, you can cancel me up to like 1 second before. If a real singer appears, please take, like if Bruce Springsteen calls up at the last minutes, like I'll do it, cut me, please. So,
yeah. Well, I was convinced at our show that it was going to be some Eagles. It was going to be like Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, and then Bruce Springsteen walks out, and everybody was like, "Holy crap!" So it was
that's
pretty
as
awesome.
good as it gets.
Yeah. So this is a podcast on resilience. I talk to people a lot about like overcoming challenges, and I always ask people as we're finishing up, like, what does living a resilient life look like for you? And have you ever really thought about that idea of resilience in your life? Because I could pinpoint for you where I see times of you being resilient, but I'd love to see your perspective on it.
It's an interesting question. I've always believed that Barstool could work. So I believe if I think something can work or I believe in something, it's very hard to give up. But at the same time, sometimes resiliency or not giving up the business world can be dumb. Like you don't want to, you got to know when to cut your losses too. If it's like, oh, this is a bad idea. So it's a little complicated, I guess, the way I look at it that way, because there's certainly things I could have given up on, including Barstool, and it never would have gone there, but I believed it would work. But then there's certain things within Barstool that I had to give up on, and if we chased it, wouldn't have. I guess just believing in yourself, ultimately. I don't know how else to, what else it would be. I don't go around being like, oh, it's resilient. If I believe in something, and as long as I believe in it, I'll basically go to the end of the earth to try to accomplish it. I've always kind of had that. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to talk about resiliency, like having that belief in yourself and belief in what you want to do. And again, like knowing when to say when. Right?
Yeah. It is about, I guess, thinking about more about like your inner kind of beliefs, because people will tell you everything under the sun, stupid, doesn't work. I just block out all that. It's like I've listened to kind of myself and people. I always say it's like the Family Feud. Like, the Family Feud, you have the one guy at the top, everyone screams the answers. They're like, guess this, guess this. Sometimes the guy, head of the family, takes the answer. Like, that's a good answer. Other times, like, no, I believe my answer is better than yours. And you go with it. That's kind of like what running Barstool is. You take all the opinions, but if you really believe in it, you got to stick with it.
I love it. Dave, thank you so much. I was trying to figure out too, when I asked you to come on the show, you said yes, like in 2 seconds flat, which I thought was so cool. And then I went back to say, all right, what else has Dave been on other podcasts outside of, all the Barstool podcasts? And I was like,
I have a pretty good list.
Yes.
You just joined. I've been on all the big ones.
Yeah, it was like Joe Rogan, Theo Von, Alex Cooper, and Ryan Mannion. And I was feeling pretty good about that. So
yeah, I don't say yes often to podcasts, but obviously we have a relationship. I love the cause. So it was an easy yes. But yeah, I may be one of the few who have that. The Alice Cooper, Theo, Joe Rogan triumphant.
That is a good trifecta, and I'm happy to be now amongst that group. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it.